Do you recognize what this pile of parts is? It's a little bit of a shameful admission on my part, but it's something that I want to try and rectify. Let me talk to you about that. So yeah, do you recognize what this pile of parts is? If you're really into RC, you might know, but it's kind of hard to tell from this angle, I would suspect, and the way everything's all piled up. But this is my X-Max. Yeah, I've had it all tore apart for almost a full year, I think. I last bashed it last fall, end of summer, early fall, and it was in a lot of sand, and then it started making really horrible noises, and then I just kind of parked it. I took it apart and I found out what the actual problem was. It was a bearing that in the transmission assembly, and I had to tear apart the whole car to find it. I'm not really that familiar with this X-Max because I bought it used and it had a bunch of upgrades on it and I didn't know what it needed. Long story short, the whole truck is almost completely disassembled, and it was all to find a bearing that was in this transmission assembly, which has now been fixed. Ordered a full bearing set for the X-Max, and I replaced both of these bearings that are in this, and I also had to replace this idler gear because when the bearing exploded, it sent all the ball bearings, all the shrapnel and stuff into the teeth of this gear. So this is a brand new gear that I put on along with the bearings. If I can find the old pictures from almost a year ago when I did this work, I will include it. Then it's just been a back burner project of moving on to other stuff the whole time, and I never got my X-Max together, and I really regretted not being able to run it in the snow last year. I really want to get it done, get it out of here, because it takes up a lot of room. I've got screws all over the bench, all over my magnetic pit mat, and it's all from the X-Max, and now I don't even know where those screws go. So here's how an X-Max comes apart. It's all modular, but still it's a little bit of a daunting thing when you rip it all this far apart. So that's the front or the rear. Yeah, that's the front end, and here's the rear end, and then we've got other parts strewn about. So here is the actual assembly itself. The motor is out. I was digging through it trying to find where was it seized up, and it was one of the very last things I got into was where I finally found the problem was. I did order the full bearing set for it. This is the full bearing set that I got. Some other bearings that are seized in the axles and stuff. So I got this Advantage Racing Products bearing set. And look at the size of those axle bearings. So I know one of those big boys is broken. I will be replacing them as I go. I'm not going to replace every bearing in the whole system. That's one thing to just be caution of when you run through sand. Like, there is still sand in everything. I really should have taken this out and then blew it out with my compressor. I'm just going to try and brush it out best I can as I'm putting it all back together. I'm not going to show you that whole step. This is mostly just me recording this to tell you this happened. That's why you haven't seen X-Max running in almost a full year. Now I just got to try and get it back together, and we can make X-Max content again, because I want to. Alrighty guys, check it out. I got an X-Max back together. It's almost ready to run, I think. I did throw 2 4S batteries in it. It started up, it worked. I heard a bit of a grind, so I need to investigate that, find out what's grinding. I did notice a couple of broken parts on it where it's this hub carrier assembly is actually cracked right through. I don't think you can see it. You might be able to see that line right there. It's got a crack through it. So I'm going to replace that, and then while I replace it, I'm going to do the bearings too, because the back of it feels really stiff. Replace this rear hub carrier, replace the bearings, and then we're pretty much ready to go. X-Max is back together. So I'm not sure if you guys have seen much of this X-Max, but I got this used, and the previous owner put in a lot of upgrade parts in. So it's got the aluminum upgrades for all the arms. It's got these links, aluminum, all that's an upgrade. This rear bumper assembly is, I noticed, oh, this is the front, sorry, it has the front aluminum hot racing diff case. It has a rear RPM bumper assembly. That's an RPM part, which I've never noticed before. A couple things I noticed when I was working on it. It's actually quite easy to work on once you learn how. These 2 front screws are 25 millimeters long. Those ones are 30. These ones are 25. The ones in the middle are 14. You know, there's a lot of different sizes that you can put in the wrong spots. And when I was building this, most of them were in the wrong spots. So I put every screw that was left over on this magnetic pit mat that was outside of the grid structure was all from the X-Max, and every one of them went back into the X-Max, no screws left over. There's a couple that were slightly wrong spec, but they're within a millimeter or two, and I couldn't find the proper ones, so they all worked, and it's certainly better than what it was. I just got the hub assembly and axle out, just a screw, and then pull up the hinge pins out top and bottom, and then this whole assembly pulls right out. So this is the bearing seal coming out now, and this whole thing is extremely, like, I can barely turn that with my fingers. It's right seized up. So that inner bearing is really bad. It's going to be replaced. Probably I'm going to do the outer bearing too. This whole hub assembly is going to get replaced because it's broken. It separated the two assemblies. This is how much sand and stuff was on the inside of that hub after pulling it out, and there's the blown inner bearing, which I'm going to need to be able to, like, I'm going to have to try and wedge that out of there. Also, when bearings explode, what happened in my drivetrain inside the actual X-Max was the bearing seized and exploded like this, and then the little balls that ride inside of the bearing can come out, and then they drop down inside of the gears, and then they chip up all the gears and just ruin the whole thing. I had to replace a couple gears and fish out all little balls, and then I put it all back together, and even then there was one friggin' ball that got left in there and chewed up a brand new gear. So yeah, a little disappointed in that, but it's fine. It's an X-Max. It's got huge gears. It'll be able to handle a little nick out of a few of them. Anyway, gonna replace this bearing, and then we'll get it all back together again. This is the big inner bearing, and it's a little notchy, but it's not terrible. This bearing is actually still working. It just lost its shield, so as stuff would get in there and rust, it would get a little bit grittier, but this bearing works. This is the bigger inner. It's the actual outer. This one, which looks good, is totally seized up internally. It won't rotate. So that's quite interesting. I would not have expected that. So I should probably check my other ones after I get this one repaired. Overall, this thing is in pretty good shape. It's still got the original 8S electronics in it, but I did buy some things to try and protect the body a bit more. Now, the body that it came with is not that great a condition, but they make some new accessories now, one of them being the rear tailgate protector. So I bought some new parts for my X-Max. Since I needed to go buy the rear carrier assembly, which was the part 7752, I also picked up some new stuff to protect the body. I think mine's like an original X-Max 8S, or it was a replacement body, and the guy didn't move over all the parts, but it didn't have some of the plastic protections that some of the brand new ones do, so I ordered some of the extra things. This is part number 7710. And what this is it's washers that go on top of the body mount, all the body mount holes, so it spreads the load. Instead of it just being the screw head, which can pull through the polycarbonate really easily, it just spreads the load out. And it looks like you get a bunch of new screws with it too. So if your screws are all ripped up, take a look at this piece, 7710. It should make your body last a little bit longer. Then, I'm not sure if all X-Max come with this or not, but there's now a tailgate protector. It's just like I showed on my Haas video, where you get a big plastic skid on the rear of your bed on the body, and then it'll just last a bit longer. I just went out to the garage to get the body. This is a replacement body that the old owner did. This is one of the Traxxas Pro graphics bodies, where it has part of the paint on print already done for you, so it's got some interesting details in the black that you can barely see, but it's there, and then you just spray one color on the inside and it gives you this look. He just went for a basic red. It's all chipping off, but because it's a Pro Graphics, you don't really notice. It looks all right. Terrible decal placement, decal. The protective bits, so the rear bed protection, it's a good thing I'm doing it because it is kind of cracked up here. That's starting to go, so that'll give me lip protection for the bed. And here's an example of where it's lifting out, of where the mount is lifted right through the screws. So those screws will be replaced with the mounting point spacers to spread the load out, and it'll just help this body last longer. It's not a great looking body, but these are good parts that can be transferred over to the next body afterward. All right, the body reinforcement pieces are on. I gotta say, I really like those pieces. So that spreads the load with the black plastic. You get the I got the rear box protector piece on. For this one, you really definitely do need a good body reamer. You have to ream out 4 holes aligned with the mount points, and then it like clamps together through the shell. It's actually a pretty good design, but getting the 4 holes lined up exactly where you need them, you don't get a template or anything, so you have to kind of eye it up with the pieces that they give you, and just be careful when you're doing that, because you get one off and then you got to elongate it because it's covered on the top. You don't see the holes, so it works out. Oh, alrighty guys, it's done. It's fixed. X-Max, ready to rock again. Get out here, we'll start ripping it up into the fall and winter with the X-Max. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you're new on here, subscribe. If you want to talk to me, leave a comment down below. And as always, thanks for watching. Wheeling even on the rock.
Yeah.
Oh. Sure, I saw that coming.
I'll get it.
Hit it.